Thank you for joining me today for another lesson in the book of Acts. Last time we were talking about Acts 10. Really exciting. Peter has a vision. 3 times God gives him a vision and says to him, Peter, don't call unclean what I've called clean. He's changing his mindset about Gentiles. It's time for the message of the good news of Jesus to go to the Gentiles. And so Peter's mind had to shift, and God works with him through this vision that he has and through an open-hearted man named Cornelius. Well, today we're going to be in Acts chapter 12. And it's just sort of a reminder that just when you think that you're on a path that's going smooth in the Lord and blessings are ahead, that things can fall apart, sometimes all at once. And it reminds us that we're not wrestling against flesh and blood, but we are engaged in a warfare against an enemy. And it's principalities and powers that are trying to block the message of Jesus. So let's look at Acts chapter 12. In this, the enemy is just about to unleash some very vicious persecution right when it looks like everything's going well. Let's read verses 1 through 5. At about this time, King Herod arrested some who belonged to the church, intending to persecute them. He had James, the brother of John, put to death with a sword. When he saw that this pleased the people and met with the approval of the Jews, he proceeded to seize Peter also. This happened during the festival of unleavened bread. After arresting him, he put him in prison, handing him over to be guarded by 4 squads of 4 soldiers each. And Herod intended to bring him to public trial after the Passover. So Peter was kept in prison, but the church was earnestly praying to God for him. So, right now, Herod finds out that he can get some political favor if he starts to persecute these Christians. And a leader, James, is arrested and put to death with the sword. That probably means beheaded. And the church is stunned. Herod sees that it goes over very well with the Jews, and so he has Peter arrested too. And now he's not messing around. He has 4 squadrons of 4 guarding him throughout the day, so that there's no time of day when he is not under full scrutiny. But something miraculous is going to happen in response to the church's prayer. It's exciting. Peter is imprisoned with extra guards assigned to him. Herod's not taking any chances for Peter's escape, but the church is praying earnestly. So let's pick it up in verse 6. That night, before Herod was to bring him to trial, Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers, bound with 2 chains, and 2 sentries stood guard at the entrance. Suddenly the angel of the Lord appeared and shone a light in the cell. He struck Peter on the side and woke him up. "Quick, get up," he said. And the chains fell off of Peter's wrists. Then the angel said to him, "Put on your clothes and sandals." And so Peter did. "Wrap your cloak around you and follow me," the angel told him. Peter followed him out of the prison, but he had no idea whether what the angel was doing was really happening. He thought he was seeing a vision. They passed the 1st and 2nd guards and came to the iron gate leading to the city. And it happened for them, and it opened for them by itself. And they went through it. And when they had walked the length of one street, suddenly the angel left him. And then Peter came to himself and said, "Now I know without a doubt that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from Herod's clutches and everything that the Jewish people were hoping would happen." Peter is rescued, and it's a direct response to the church praying earnestly. Pretty amazing. Peter's not sure what's going on. He didn't know if he was having a vision or if it was all really happening. But God supernaturally got him out of a very impossible situation. This last Sunday, the message out of Hebrews chapter 10 talked about us holding on tightly to the faith that we believe in and laying our full trust in the Lord, letting the weight of all of our difficulties, life circumstances, be in the Lord's hands. It happens as the church prays for Peter. The weight of his circumstances is in the Lord's hand, and the Lord sent an angel to rescue him. Wow. Now, Peter gets to the door and something very human happens as he comes to the place where the church is gathered. Let's pick it up in verse 12. When this dawned on Peter, he went to the house of Mary, the mother of John, also called Mark, where many people were gathered and were praying. And Peter knocked at the outer entrance, and a servant named Rhoda came to answer the door. When she recognized Peter's voice, she was overjoyed, and she ran back without opening it. And she exclaimed, "It's Peter at the door." "You're out of your mind," they told her. When she kept insisting that it was so, they said, "It must be his angel." But Peter kept on knocking, and when they opened the door, they saw him and were astonished. Very human response. They're praying earnestly that God would rescue Peter, but when he shows up at the door, they're not sure they believe it. I've had those human responses, and I'm sure you have too. Peter motioned with his hand for them to be quiet and described how the Lord had brought him out of prison. "Tell James and the other brothers and sisters about this," he said, and then he left for another place. In the morning, there was no small commotion among the soldiers about what had become of Peter. After Herod had a thorough search made for him and didn't find him, he cross-examined the guards and ordered that they be executed. Wow. We see a lot of humanity in these verses. We see the imprisonment and the struggle Peter was feeling, and then the disbelief at the door. Can this be that God really answered our prayers? And then we see Herod and the hardness that's in his heart, how he wants to make political maneuvers using the early church. If you go on through the end of this chapter, you'll hear a little more about Herod's humanity. He hardened his heart so much that when the people cried out, "It's the voice of a God, not a man," God judged him for that, and Herod died. But the last verse of chapter 12 says this: "But the word of God continued to spread and to flourish." That's what I want to focus on. It's in this whole story, we can see how blind we can be and how things can get distorted in life. But when God comes on the scene, he can move and work in ways that are beyond our explanation and beyond our ability. And the Word of God, He will cause to flourish and to spread in this generation as well. I'm glad that we got to study together today in Acts chapter 12. Next week we'll be in Acts 13, looking at the beginning of Paul's first missionary journey with Barnabas and with John Mark. I'm looking forward to studying with you again next week. Thanks.